Welcome to the third Tire Rack tire test of 2024. It's our first performance tire test of the season, and these aren't just any performance tires. We've assembled a collection of 6 of the top performing summer tires.
Right, we have 4 max performance summer tires and 2 ultra high performance summer tires. And on top of that, we're introducing a new test vehicle.
That's right, it's a brand new 2024 G87 chassis BMW M2. So let's check it out. And here it is, our new M2. It's one of the new additions to our test fleet for 2024, and it's going to be dedicated to testing performance tires. It's a big power car, so it should be perfect for pushing these kinds of tires to their absolute limits.
Right, and like we said before, we're testing max performance summer tires and ultra high performance summer tires. Some people may think that those two are synonymous, but they're not.
Right, each one of those categories means something different. Max performance summer tires, like their names kind of imply, are the maximum of performance for summer tires. They represent the upper echelon, the pinnacle of performance and technology for each tire manufacturer's summer performance products. So they try to maximize dry traction, wet traction, even longevity and on-road refinement. Whereas the ultra-high performance summer tires might be seen as kind of like the little brothers, let's call it, to the max performance counterparts. They still try to do everything at a really high level, but maybe they don't have the full performance picture. Maybe there's somewhere that, they kind of sacrifice something, or maybe they do everything well, but just not quite to the level of their max performance counterparts.
Right, and the 4 max performance summer tires we have in this test, starting out is, let's say, the Michelin Pilot Sport 4S. It is a benchmark for a reason. It becomes original equipment on many vehicles. In fact, this exact vehicle, it was original equipment. So it's a benchmark for a reason. Then, of course, we have the Continental Extreme Contact Sport 02. We've tested it before. It did very well, and it's a great tire in its own right. Third up, we have the Bridgestone Potenza Sport. It is a European-developed Bridgestone tire, and it was aimed squarely at the Pilot Sport 4S as its benchmark in its development. And this tire's predecessor, just the Extreme Contact Sport, not the 02 that we have in this test. And then rounding it out, our 4th tire is the Yokohama Advan Apex V601. It's an Advan tire, so it's Yokohama's pinnacle of performance, but it was actually tuned for the North American market. So it is aimed, again, squarely at its 3 competitors in the max performance lineup.
Yep, and then on to the ultra high performance summer tires. No UHP summer tire test would be complete without the Firestone Firehawk Indy 500. It has been the benchmark for the category since it was introduced. Drivers love it, testers love it. It's a very good tire. Then the General G-Max RS, which was introduced a few years after the Firestone Firehawk Indy 500 and designed to compete directly with that tire. We've actually tested these tires head-to-head in the past on 2 different performance test tire platforms. So we're really looking forward to see if that kind of scales up and our performance results are the same on our newer, higher horsepower vehicle. Of course, we can't wait to get out there on the track and really push things to the limit, but our test protocols dictate that road rides are the first component of testing. So let's get started with that. The Bridgestone Potenza Sport. Brent, what do you experience from the passenger seat with this tire?
You're telling me this is a max performance summer tire, and I believe you. It's concise, which we appreciate.
Sure, nicely controlled.
But it is firm over the little stuff, it's firm over the big stuff.
Yeah, I would argue, we don't use the word stiff all that often because that means something specific. We don't use the word harsh all that often because that means something specific. Over big bumps, I would say this tire is stiff to harsh, honestly.
Oh, yeah. It's not unpleasantly harsh, but it's harsh.
It's definitely there.
How about that turn in right
Yeah, I know, right? It is right now turning. Like there's no waiting, there's no buildup, there's no anticipation. It just turns.
If you think about thinking about turning, it'll turn. Yeah,
I like it. Good.
Good.
Yeah. And then last, noise. Over coarse surfaces, over smooth surfaces even, there is a bit of a howl or kind of a whine. It's sporty. It feels good to drive, but unfortunately it's also a little stiff and a little loud on the road. Another max performance summer tire, the Continental Extreme Contact Sport 02. It rounds over big impacts. It kind of mutes some small impacts. It's still firm, taut.
Yeah.
It's a performance tire after all, but you don't have this constant up and down. You don't have those moments where you feel yourself tense up a little bit.
I did the same thing just after driving the Bridgestone. That big bump at the top of the bridge, you're just like, but it's just,
Then it just didn't happen, right?
Yeah,
it
all right,
wasn't there,
nice.
right? So, okay, noise or sound comfort, as we officially call it, it's pretty darn good too, honestly.
More better.
Much more better.
It doesn't have the cyclical tones that the Bridgestone has. It had a hint on the really smooth pavement, but again, for an MP tire, it was well executed.
All right, so let's talk about steering and on-road handling, you know, our third criteria that we haven't mentioned yet. It doesn't have that like immediacy, that urgency,
Right.
but it kind of builds and feels a bit more natural. You know, I gave it the same score as the Bridgestone in terms of, you know, that criteria, because they're very different, but very satisfying as well. All right, Brent, we're on the third product of the test. It is the first ultra high performance summer tire, and it's the Firestone Firehawk Indy 500.
Yes. It's doing a great job up until the very kind of peak of the bump, and then it kind of just, it loses its composure. You get that jiggle, you get that secondary motion, but you know, you're rooting for it. Like, oh, you were so close, so maybe the next one. But then it disappoints again.
Okay, let's move on to sound comfort. It's good, but again, there's some things that you could change, or you would change if you could. You know, there's a little bit of a growl over coarse surfaces. You're behind the wheel. What about steering? What do you think about steering?
It's okay, especially back on the highway there. It was hunting a little bit.
Right, you feel like you're chasing it.
Yeah, like I won't say it needed constant correction, but it kind of needed like reassurance the whole way down that highway section.
Let's talk about the flip side of that, the good side of that. It feels very direct. It feels very responsive. It is a point and go affair, and it gets you where you want to go. The General G-Max RS. And let's get it out there. It's good, but it's not great. It's very well controlled. It controls body motions. It's also just a touch stiff. So you do get a little bit of vertical up and down. Again, not bad, not objectionable. It just doesn't do as nice a job of rounding over the bumps as some of the top tires in this test. Noise, good.
Higher level.
But yeah, higher level. And some distinct tones that you can pick out.
Some, yeah. It's doing a good job blending everything into kind of your backgrounds, you know, consistent white noise.
They feel like they're overlaid on top of one another instead of blended together. And you're doing this, which I feel like that's where you wanted me to start, because you were doing that when
It's after driving the Bridgestone and the Firestone, I was just like, I'm in my M2, like, oh, I got this sporty, spunky steering. I get into this, and it's a little more subdued, a little vague, especially, you know, on center. It feels nice, but you really have to almost like lead it there, where the other tires were just eager to get there. This one needs a little bit of help. Yeah.
Again, if you weren't comparing them back to back to back to back, you might not notice. But when you do, all of these, you know, we'll call them shortcomings. All of these shortcomings are kind of, you know, thrown into stark relief, and you can pick apart the individual components of a tire. The Michelin Pilot Sport 4S. I feel everything. I feel every crack, every bump, every undulation. And
which some people like, but this is still a max performance summer tire. This isn't extreme performance. This isn't track. I don't need to feel the pain when I drove over it. But it also translates to a rough ride over the bumps.
Right. Noise is in a somewhat similar boat. You know, I hear more tones, more varieties that kind of add up into a noticeable volume.
Yeah, especially after driving, say, the Continental. It's a little louder and picking up more cyclical tones, especially if there's any kind of coarseness.
Now, let me talk about its saving grace, its redeeming quality. Oh my gosh, the steering.
Just be over here not steering.
The steering is wonderful. It is every bit as weighty and direct and precise as you want. It responds quickly. It's not so like manic as some of the other tires that we've talked about today. It is just, it's glorious, but that doesn't overcome or overshadow the fact that, hey, in terms of ride noise, right,
You know?
Yeah, I'm enjoying steering, but I feel everything. The Yokohama Advan Apex V601. Whew. I mean,
it's comfortable. It's soaking up bumps, big and small. Like, it's shocking.
Right, it rounds them over. It's quiet too.
Yeah.
You know, there are some tones, but over the courses section of our route, it does a really nice job of blending everything together. Then steering is actually pretty nice too.
It's really good.
I'll give it this, or I will say this: it's a little light. I would like a bit more weight. That's kind of one of the things that I like in a performance tire, is a little bit weighty
I
steering.
can get on board with that. I would like maybe a little more heft, particularly right on center.
Exactly. Yeah, it's very good overall.
This is a max performance, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
This isn't the Apex Touring.
No, but it's surprisingly comfortable, quiet, and not surprisingly great steering. The top 3 tires in our wet objective testing delivered impressive traction, and their results were very closely matched. The Michelin Pilot Sport 4S narrowly eked out the shortest braking distances, and it was third in lateral grip on the skid pad. The Bridgestone Potenza Sport was the leader in lateral traction and an incredibly close second in braking, and the Extreme Contact Sport 02 was second on the skid pad, but required about 4 feet longer than the leader to come to a stop from 50 miles an hour. The General G-Max RS was in a virtual tie with its Continental sibling in braking, but it fell back by a sizable amount on the skid pad. Even so, it was still firmly ahead of the next best Yokohama. The Firestone Firehawk Indy 500 was a considerable distance from the Advan Apex V601, and it had nowhere near the capability of the test leaders. When looking at wet lap times, the results followed the same pattern. The Michelin technically had the fastest laps, but it was essentially in a 3-way tie with the Bridgestone and the Continental. The Michelin Pilot Sport 4S. I love the steering. It builds effort nicely, it is precise, it is hefty, it is everything I want out of steering.
Lateral traction is good. It's absolutely strong out here in the wet. Once though you push over into understeer or arguably oversteer, you get that chatter. You do have to be careful not to make any errors because it does feel like you're being punished for it.
Bridgestone Potenza Sport, and you can feel right there, man, brutal. Brutal is the word that we use for this, but yeah, it has the grip, right?
So it's got the objective traction, which is fantastic. The steering is so fast and it is wet, whether we like it or not. It can overpower the front tires. It's a little too quick unless you're really paying
abrupt,
attention.
edgy, darty, maybe. It's pointy. This is the Continental Extreme Contact Sport 02. It's gentle. It is easy to drive. It feels like it's just an extension of the driver.
Yes, the steering isn't quite as just stupid fast, but it feels more manageable, more natural, more sophisticated.
The General delivered an impressive result that was just a couple tenths behind the leaders, with the Yokohama a sizable step back from there. This is the General G-Max RS. It's also an ultra-high performance summer tire, and objectively, it was kind of mid-pack.
It's not mid-pack out here. I refute that.
On the track.
This is fantastic.
Refute it or not, that's the way it was.
Yeah, so it's cushioned on the edge of traction. It's got just good composure as it transitions from, cornering to the next corner, left to right.
I will say this, the steering is a little bit vague. It's not as nice as the top tires in terms of communication or accuracy and precision, but out here in the wet, it works really well. Like everything about this tire just works well together. It's edgy, right? I mean, that's what I found when I was driving it too. The front end feels great, but then the rear end can't keep up. It doesn't have the traction of the front. So you're pointed in the right direction, you're ready to go, and you try to put the power down, and all of a sudden it's whoops, I regret this immediately.
It kind of crabs for me. It's like we got the 4-wheel steering option here on the M2.
Yeah, right.
Like if you're cornering and it starts to oversteer, like sometimes if it's a quick progressive turn, it just starts to push tangentially.
It's good among greats, honestly. It's not the complete package. Trailing the group by a considerable margin, the Firestone rounded out the test once again. Firestone Firehawk Indy 500, and even from the passenger seat, I can tell this is a totally different experience.
The biggest problem is, okay, yes, you're sideways, cool, that looks fast. It's just not fast. You're giving up so much forward motion because it just wants to be sideways.
It's easy to drive, it's fun to drive, but if you are looking for absolute traction or certainly something to be fast on, this isn't it.
Yeah. In purely objective traction, the Michelin led the test with the shortest stopping distance and the most lateral grip. The Continental and Bridgestone were a very small step behind, and the General and Yokohama closely matched as well. The Firestone required about 5.5 feet longer to come to a stop than the leading tire, and its lower lateral traction on the skid pad was readily apparent. Thanks to differences in the tire's subjective characteristics, there was a slight shakeup in the order when it came to lap times. Here, the Extreme Contact Sport 02 was the clear leader, and the Pilot Sport 4S and Potenza Sport were paired slightly back from the leader.
The Continental Extreme Contact Sport 02, and I felt it when I drove it, and you can even feel it from the passenger seat. You don't have those edgy, like quick, abrupt step out moments. It's just kind of a cohesive whole, and you're kind of, just flowing around the track. It also set the fastest average lap time in our objective testing.
I believe it.
Yeah, it was close. It was a tight race, but ultimately the stopwatch said that the Continental Extreme Contact Sport was the fastest tire of the group in the dry. Michelin Pilot Sport 4S.
The steering is sharp, precise. It is everything you want out of steering until you go over. Once you go over, it just gets kind of dumb.
Very strong braking, very strong lateral traction, amazing steering. The handling and balance, as we would call it, is good, but leaves a little bit to be desired, especially if you overstep the limits of the front axle.
Yeah.
Here we are, Bridgestone Potenza Sport. Man, what are you feeling so far over there? Yes, all of the G's.
Oh man, the steering is just stupid fast.
Right? Really, really strong traction, really, really fast steering response. But if you overcook corner entry, you push. Yeah. If you give it too much throttle at corner exit, it steps out. And it's kind of easy to recover, but it's really abrupt on the recovery too. Like it breaks loose and then it comes back and it just feels brutal.
Despite the nearly identical objective figures, the Advent Apex V601 pulled noticeably ahead from the G-Max RS, and once again the Firehawk Indy 500 was left behind, putting down laps that were 1.2 seconds slower than the best.
The Yokohama Advent Apex V601. And you know what? I'm going to start with something that we don't usually talk about. The look of this tire. We don't judge tires based on looks. I do. But man, look at this thing. It's got these big outboard shoulders, very reminiscent of its extreme performance, the 200 tread wear.
It feels nice. Everything is balanced. It feels very capable. I like the steering. Again, it's natural, it's precise, it's easy to handle, it's easy to find the limit.
The General G-Max RS. It's nice, it has quick steering, it has good balance. It's not as cohesive of a whole as say like the Continental was.
Right.
But overall, it's a nice performance.
It just doesn't have that grip we're used to with the MP tires we just drove. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Firestone Firehawk Indy 500 compared to the Max Performance summer tires that we've driven so far, I would say that reputation is very overblown.
Well, right. So different category, UHP versus MP. But you can immediately feel that traction difference. Just the ultimate mechanical grip just isn't there. How's the steering feel?
It's quick, it's abrupt, it's not as brutal as we'll call it the Bridgestone sibling tire, but equally digital. There's still no real feel to what I'm doing.
And if you have the traction, that can work sometimes, but you don't necessarily have the traction right now.
Right. Let's get it out of the way right up front. Top two tires in the test were Max Performance summer tires. The Continental Extreme Contact Sport 02 won the test. The Michelin Pilot Sport 4S was a close second. They both excelled in the dry and the wet on the track, And the Continental won the test on the road ride too.
Yeah, it was impressive. And right along there with it was the Yokohama Advent Apex V601. It tied the Continental on the road.
Right, good job on the road,
It just didn't quite do as well on the track, both dry and wet. It was fine, it was respectable, it was just slightly under the
So
other
it
two.
ended up in third place overall. Yeah.
And then in fourth, impressively, the General G-Max RS, an
right?
ultra high performance summer tire coming in right behind the Max Performance tires. It never really misstepped anywhere. It just did everything at a nice high level, as you'd expect from an ultra high performance summer tire, eerily similar to its bigger brother Continental.
Right? It felt kind of similar, right? Right behind the G-Max RS, like a 100th of a point below the G-Max RS, was the Bridgestone Potenza Sport. It is a premium Max Performance summer tire. It was also awesome in the wet and in the dry on the track, but it faltered on the road, right? Like the steering was great, but
really
the ride
aggressive.
and the noise left
it
something
put
to be
the
desired.
performance and max performance, which is fine. That's his thing.
That's right. That's where it was pointed.
Rounding out the group, no way around it, was the Firestone Firehawk Indy 500. We love the tire. It's beloved to our customers. It just didn't quite have the performance chops on the road or really on the track.
Yeah, but you know it did have the performance chops. Our new BMW M2 test vehicle. It's fun to drive, it's fast, it's loud, it's baby blue.
Yes, it is.
But more importantly than all of those things, it's a great evaluation vehicle for performance tires. We felt huge differences in traction, in handling dynamics in both the wet and the dry. And on the road, it showed us differences in ride quality, in noise comfort, and in small steering maneuvers. It was just, again, an amazing test vehicle. And what's even more fun than that is our next test this season with the M2 is going to be 200 treadwear extreme performance summer tires. And what goes along with that every year is we need to strap on our helmets and our big boy pants because it's our annual track test. It's going to be a lot of fun. It gives us something to look forward to, something for you to watch. So we'll see you then.